What's up, Joe?
Living the dream. How about you, buddy?
I'm dreaming to live.
Yeah, well, you just take things too seriously, man. You gotta just relax more. Just chill a little bit more and just sort of.
I need to go back to smoking dope, I think.
Oh yeah, that would be pleasant. I wasn't even thinking of that, but I just mean in general, just kind of. I feel like I know everybody else. I mean, I was looking at your guys' chat, the material indicators one earlier this morning, and it's just like everybody's a macro person now, and I'm like, what? I mean, I don't know what the point is at this stage because it seems to me that, I mean, I sort of have the feeling that, I see positiveness here in the space. I don't see like looming decimation like so many others are calling it. I mean, for some reason, I don't know. I feel good about it. So
that's good. No, it's funny. I just put out. I just interviewed Josh Rosenthal, who's the guy that did the parallels between the Renaissance and the American Revolution to crypto. Really fascinating shit. That's on missiondefi.com, everybody, if you haven't checked it out yet. And I just did a tweet because in a clip from the episode, I asked him. We were talking about. Sorry, I need to pay attention to what I'm doing here. I was in the middle of something when I started, so now I'll do that later. We were talking about the fact that during the Renaissance, two of the big things that happened that drive this stuff is he says that humans were aggregated, they had no power, no control, they whatever, and he talks about value and communications dramatically changing, the printing press and double entry bookkeeping being invented, and saying that led to a lot of what happened in the Renaissance. That's his background. He's a historian studying manuscripts from that period. Anyway, he parallels it to the Renaissance. And so I asked him during the course of the conversation, I said, well, you talked about the fact that during that time, initially the powers that be tried to stamp it down, not allow people access to the printing press, not allow people to be able to utilize it or see things that came out of it, but it didn't work, that it overflowed. I said, are you a little concerned because you're like 100% investing in crypto projects? Are you a little concerned that in fact, in this atmosphere, the control that governments can have and exert over crypto and all of the things that are going on here, that can be overcome eventually, that they will eventually have to join like they did in the printing press days? I said, do those concerns make you hesitant about more investing? And he says, nope, I just doubled down. And I was like, all right, man. So he's full in. And I think that addresses what you were kind of talking about, which is you're kind of positive. You and I are seeing a shit ton of building happening. We're seeing, all kinds of activity going on. The people we meet are enthusiastic. They're building, they're growing. So I don't know. I'm very positive about DeFi. I think there are, certainly problems to be addressed in the space, but this is the tweet I did. I said, where do we stand? Oh, fuck, I forgot to put on Do Not Disturb. I said, where do we stand? Regulatory shit show. On-ramps closed. Maybe about 5 dApps are decentralized. UX is weak. Centralized hosting and UI. Devs reinvent and open up to exploits. TVL is incestuously cannibalized. And I said, what does Joshua Rosenthal do? Doubles down, right?
I like it.
Yeah, and anyway, so I agree with you. I think we're.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I guess everybody has to look for something to be doom and gloomy about, but and we're down. But I was looking. Remember those portfolios we picked on January 1st or whatever? You and I. I went back and looked at my picks, and it's like, I mean, there's a couple versions around, so I don't know if FTX was in my ultimate pick box or not. But if it was, of course, we know what happened there. But everything else is like up between 20 and 60%.
Right.
In 90 days. So, I mean, maybe that makes me feel a little bit more positive. And then, like you said, it's, when we were at the conference, just all of the activity that was going on, the stuff I see every day going on now, and I see wins being eked out. And yeah, sure, there's a lot of negative stuff going on, but the regulatory crackdown. But who didn't? I mean, we've been talking about that for 2 years. I mean, everybody knew it was coming.
Yep.
So if you didn't get ready for it, kind of shame on you. But I don't think it's slowed down the rest of the world. I mean, I'm talking about outside of the U.S. I don't think it slowed those folk down at all.
No, I agree. And look, even if we have a crash, right? Like Sean's talking about the fact that money's leaving the system.
Yeah.
His TA says, he sees a big dump down. And those are all valid things to observe, think about, and do. But as you said, look how high up we are. You know what I mean? Look how far up we are since the beginning of the year. People should be celebrating that. People should be taking profit. People should be thinking about their next move and then being prepared. If there's a massive black swan friggin' dump, okay, guess what? Time to get rich, right? I mean, those are the times when generational wealth are made. So we talk about this all the time. Shizzy says, I hate macro. Nothing matters but the 4-year cycle.
Yeah, I don't know. I think even in Sean's analysis, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think that, I think we've asked this a couple of times. I mean, even in those draconian situations that he puts out as potential or likely or what he thinks is going to happen, not NFA, of course, he's always talking about a deep V. He's not talking about, boom, and then, slam the door shut and game over for 2 years or something. He's talking about whatever causes that massive turnover at that moment, that there's so many buyers down there ready to pounce that it's going to be very, very short-lived. So it is kind of a flushing of let's say, but it doesn't sound, I don't look at that as bad news.
Right.
You know what I mean? I look at it as good news. Let's flush out everybody who can't hang or isn't risk managed properly or is, way over the front of their skis. Let's let them crash and burn, because then that starts the next run. So I guess maybe that's part of the reason I'm not feeling as negative about stuff. And, I just see good things happening. So I don't know.
Shizzy said, Rosenthal is a genius. That's the guy I interviewed. That interview was great. Thank you, Shizzy. Loved his points. Yeah, he's just smart. I didn't have to do fucking much, man. He can talk, and he has his theories down. Niblet says, peeps are celebrating by cashing out, it seems. Yeah, look, I mean, we're hanging where we were. ETH is performing nicely today relative to Bitcoin. So, I'm not, there we are.
I see a lot of that talk too about, but then why aren't the prices going down? Exactly. To me, it's not like, I mean, I know we saw Taylor was buying some, and I'm sure others must be too, but it again tells me that the big institutional holders aren't selling, and maybe everybody who's sold have sold.
Maybe. Where's your gut right now on the unlock on ETH?
I have no clue. I mean, to me, it's like, on the one hand, I say, okay, there's a bunch of supply coming online. If you're staking in nodes of ETH already, you're not one that's really trading ETH, I don't think. I think you're holding ETH.
Yep.
So I don't know if unlocking necessarily puts you in a dump the stack mode. I think maybe it takes some profits, of course, but I don't know if I see it as a massive sell-off. And then two, I also saw some data months ago, that I guess that's only 14% of the total ETH position is the stuff that's staked, something like that. Not a huge, not 80%, let's say.
Right.
So, if all of that came unlocked at once, which I doubt is the case, you're talking about 14% of total value, and who's going to dump?
A huge chunk of those folks are going to stay in. Like, look,
exactly.
Anybody institutional, they may shave off some profit there, but at the end of the day, the most, I think personally, not financial advice, that a lot of people are going to stay staking. Like, you know, if you're an ETH believer and you believe the market has a lot of room to go up and you want more ETH and you're already staking and you're gaining 4 or 5, whatever it is, 6% interest, wherever you're staking, then why wouldn't you keep doing it? I mean, it's the same. Here's the other thing. The LSD market, the liquid staking derivatives market, is growing. So what does that tell you? These are people who are taking staking revenue and they can pull it out anytime they want, and they're not. So my gut says I think we're fine. I think we're fine. Niblet says it's not just crypto. Bank deposits are also down too. Maybe that's why Bitcoin's hanging up. You know, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it makes me sort of think that, you know, when all of a sudden, I don't want to call it panic mode, but regulatory panic mode, but let's call it regulatory, oh shit, we better start doing something mode, like a sense of urgency.
Yep.
It just seems to me like it's way overkill at this point, because I think everybody's already maneuvered. You know, as to bank deposits, I did hear something about the smaller, medium-sized banks had some outputs, but a lot of that was ending up at the big 4 banks, you know, the too big to fail ones, because it was more of a people being afraid of not getting their balances covered. I don't think that's because where else does it go? I mean, unless you're buying gold or Bitcoin or something.
Right.
And to all the cash outflows supposedly from exchanges, I mean, is there any, I mean, I'm no expert on it, but you know, I mean, I never don't really participate on them anymore much, but I've never really left stuff on centralized exchanges anyhow.
Right.
So, you know, when I'm moving, say, ETH off of a centralized exchange, how does that show? Does it show as just money out, or does it show that it's going into cold storage? You know, that's kind of one of the things I'm curious about, is a lot of this really just, because if the price isn't going down, then there's not more selling than buying.
Right.
So, you know, to me, the notion of all the capital fleeing the crypto markets, you know, it would correspond to a decrease in price, one would think.
Yep. Absolutely.
And so I just don't know. Is a lot of this going to cold storage, or, you know, is a lot of it just going to wallets sitting in stables waiting for something? You know, I just have no idea, but I don't really feel any sense of panic myself.
Yeah.
With anyone in any sector, to be honest.
Shizzy says, I think the ETH unlock is a nothing burger. So do I. He said most of the staked ETH is from the big 4, and they will restake, in my opinion, the big 4 being Lido, Coinbase, Rocket Pool, and Frax. I think Frax has control. All of those others have liquid staking, and you know, except for Coinbase. So I just think that we're not going to have an issue. Hey, there's been a big rug pull, or it looks like there's about to be a big rug pull.
What?
Ready?
Yeah, sure.
The Texas state of Texas government is about to pull the incentives for miners in Texas. So all those folks that moved all those machines from China and elsewhere into Texas about to lose some of their mining incentives for stabilizing the energy system. I'm not sure that Texas has rebuilt their energy system. I don't know if that's in their best interest at this point, but I haven't heard whether this passed or not. But
well, come to Florida.
It did get through committee, vote 10-0, that's a lot of Republicans, because that's a Republican Senate. So a little surprised to see that, frankly. And the timing is a bit strange. I'm not sure if they're hurting for revenue or what the deal is, but kind of ugly.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the mining firms down there didn't step up and throw more money around.
Yeah,
to these state Senate groups. That's kind of surprising to me, unless they're already on the way out, you know, heading to Florida or something like that. Maybe. You get some solar going, but you know, I think again, all this energy FUD. I mean, it's just all friggin' nonsense, to be honest. It shocks me when people still bring up the proof of work, you know, mining costs. It makes no sense to me. So I think it's just one, again, you know, it's, if you're trying to stymie use you're going to go after various propaganda themes, and that's one of them. It resonates with lots of people. So, and nobody has the time to figure out if it's true or not.
Yeah.
We know it's part of it's true, a lot of it's not. So to me, I just find that is another way to scare people off. But at the same time, we keep coming back to NASDAQ still in custody or shortly getting ready to, and Fidelity already is.
Yep. Exactly.
So if those two are doing it, I mean, come on, it's here to stay.
Yeah. I agree, dude.
So again, back to my overall feeling of not negativity.
Phantom Network has added D.Fi's security tools to bolster DApp protection. So this is a company that's analyzed 12 million issues from 1.15 million smart contracts in the past 2 years. So they have this auto scanner that can actually scan through all the smart contracts on Phantom and then warn and alert users if there's a potential issue with a particular contract. This to me is just, we talked the other day about Phantom, and has there been any news? These guys just keep cranking quietly on the fundamentals. They're just building the base fundamentals. Account extraction. This is the second automated security system being built into Phantom at the protocol level, making it easier for users to be protected and making it easier for developers to make sure what they're building and deploying is safer. The FVM is going to deploy. I am still a fanboy. They're going to decrease number of tokens required for validator nodes, which will further decentralize the network. I really like this way they're positioning themselves. Not everybody else. Others are flailing about for attention, playing the hype game, etc. And they're just building and plugging away. And they'll put out a press release about it, but they're really taking hey, we're building a platform. We're building a system that'll last for the long term. We have 30 years of runway. We have a powerful development team. Just watch us build, right? So I'm really, really, really impressed with the turnaround of kind of general management and communications over there.
Yeah, no, they are organized. And I do like the fact that they aren't hyping. I think that their challenge is going to be to attract new protocols and new, transaction volume to the chain against all the 120 other chains,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, BNB chain has a pretty compelling offering going on. The guy's coming on, Marek, because he's not, I'm on my phone, so I can't see if he's there.
By the way, did you send him the?
Yeah, I did. I sent it to the PR guys. Yeah.
Okay, good. Because he's not here.
Yeah, he'll be here. I think he might have been set up for 12:30. I'm not sure, but
okay.
The PR guy is monitoring everything too. So, but these guys are carbon negative. So to me, they focus on a lot of climate type projects, but that's just one chain. There's so many. We got the CoreDAO guys and their Satoshi Plus mechanism. So, there's so much clutter pending out there. We see what we see because we're in the US, but when you look at what say Africa sees, they're seeing stuff that we don't even know exists for them at this point, so I think with Phantom, they have to kind of lever on what they have, which is, the speed and all of those components with their, Lachesis consensus mechanism.
Yep.
And then bring in big protocols. beyond financial,
right?
Not just financial stuff. I think we're seeing, like Hive Mapper stuff, like Genomes DAO stuff, like, the tokenization stuff that Chuck talks about a lot, real world asset play stuff. I think those kind of plays, would really do well on, say, Phantom, right. Because of the way it's built, and because of its, kind of, and I say this as a compliment, boutique-y size. They're sort of more agile and maneuverable than, say, the bigger ones. So, that's their challenge in my mind. On top of everything else that everybody else has to deal with. But I like their style. I like the way they present themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Niblet said, listen to Josh interview. I disagree with the premise of individuals earning return on their data. that data is worthless only when aggregated. And then it's the relationship between the data, not the individual data themselves, that are the value. See legal concept, transformation of value. Not sure what he means. As an individual, you don't own or contribute to the creation of the relationship that are the value. I guess I have an unpopular opinion on this one. Overall, great interview, meaty conversation. So, first of all, I think there are some individualized cases, medical genetics, as Joe and I have talked about a lot, where individual data can be incredibly valuable. Secondarily, I think there are segments of data that will be incredibly valuable. I understand, John, your point about the fact that an individual's data by itself doesn't have value, but in order for the whole of the data to have value, the interrelationships between the data to have value, you have to have people participating. And so I think the point is that when we get to a state where social media is potentially no longer centralized and no longer your data being sold in aggregate for free, that members that join, that the networks that are being built will actually be built on the premise of your data automatically qualifies you for earning. And so I think that's the flip. I'm certainly interpreting for Josh here, so I don't want to do that. But I think the end value is going to be that the social media landscape changes enough that everyone that joins and participates and shares the data is expecting to be compensated for that. The other thing that gets really interesting now is what happens as AI advances based on the content that we create. Currently, ChatGPT from OpenAI is just taking free data off the internet. But at some point, there will be content that is being aggregated. And as social media landscape changes to owned content, it's going to be really interesting to see if AI actually increases the value of that data. I have no idea. Chuck said, Niblets, the value in your data happens when you curate it, when you pick friends, when you express preferences, when you disclose demographics, etc. Niblets said, Chuck, I agree, because this act creates relationship, and that's the value creation, not you as a data island. I don't disagree with Niblets that my data by itself has less value in terms of social media. I do disagree. I do just think that the landscape of social media will change and everyone will get compensated for their data in some way. So anyway.
Well, I think it's part of a bigger data puzzle. I mean, if are we just talking about social media data at this point? I mean,
well,
if you just look at the Silicon Valley example, basically, I mean, you could see what you could do with the data. The whole field of, predictive analytics, big data, all of those things come from, sifting. We used to, what did we call it back in the 90s? Data mining, I think, in those Oracle databases or whatever. And, it's all about optimizing delivery of messaging and most likely advertisement in these types of scenarios so you can monetize it. But to me, it is, as Chuck said, it is for the moment. And particularly when you look at, not just, digital user behavior, but in real world behavior. And then, you take it all the way. I mean, we're talking about social media here, but you take it down to, say, the genomic data. And you look at how important that really is, because it does have behavioral cues in it, based upon certain gene sequences you have or don't have, which would allow you to really micro focus on advertising and messaging and to triggering people, and particularly through social media. But, just look at how tribes are built now, at a very rudimentary levels. I mean, stronger and stronger. So to me, I think it's, that's why this data in general is so important to be held by yourself. And I think it does turn into a gig economy thing, whether it's like Hive Mapper or Uber or Lyft or, any of those. Remember all those like distributed computing platforms back in the .com days where the idle processor power or the between the keystroke processor power was aggregated for different tasks? I mean, once you start pooling all of that, with, say, I guess instance data or things that you do or decisions you make, it can get pretty scary pretty fast.
Yep.
And I think everybody really wants that data in individual hands, versus corporate hands or government hands. That's the scary part.
Absolutely. Niblet says SETI. Yes.
Yeah, that's the one. I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one that was, we had a client that was doing something with similar, but they were doing it with what would it be back then? It was like rendering. So I guess that was like 3D rendering for animation. This was back in like '99.
Right.
The other one was oil and gas exploration was a big one, and there was some, there was one or two other big ones. But the idea is that it was aggregating all of that. So if you think about now with all these data profiles we've left everywhere over the last 20 years, and then our kids and what they've put out there psychologically and all of the scrolling through Snap and Insta and all those places, all those survey ones that roll through there, there's a pretty big set of data out there that everybody has. Yeah. And I think that's what we have to be. How is that deployed, and how is it used to really get at basic things like biological proof of identity, voting influence, all kinds of different things. Absolutely. So, could be scary, could be positive.
Yep. Totally agree. Okay. Let's see what else I have until our guest arrives. Layer Zero, cross-chain platform, cross-chain messaging platform that's becoming very popular very quickly. Talk about another positive sign. There are still people putting $120 million into a protocol layer play at a $3 billion valuation. To me, there's money still playing and coming into this. So yeah, looks like our guest may be here.
Excellent.
Says Charlie. But
he's sitting in. That's Charlie from the PR agency.
Yeah, no, so I knew that. I knew that, Charlie, but I just didn't know. I can't see his face, but I didn't know if Marek was here yet. So, okay, Charlie, we're going to wait till Marek gets on board. If you can hear us. So, anyway, so $120 million at a $3 billion valuation for a protocol layer cross-chain messaging platform. Really good sign. And if you remember, who was that? What was the cross-chain messaging platform we met at ETH Denver?
Axelar?
Yeah, Axelar. And then the protocol Squid that's built on top of it that has the cross-chain messaging. So, look, I don't think big investors are, folding up and going home. No. I think they see the promise and the capability and what's possible, and they're going to keep diving in. So Paxful, never had used it. I had heard of them before, is shutting down. CEO is blaming staff departures and regulatory challenges, but there also is, it's also rumored that there were a number of issues with a former partner suing the exchange and some other issues that had come up. So let's cut off the news for now. We have our guests here. I don't know. Does Charlie want to join the show, or he's just hanging out? Let's put him.
I think he's just hanging out, or either way is cool.
Charlie, you want to be on the show?
No.
Hey guys. No.
Hey buddy.
I'm a lot more interested in your conversation with Marek, so I'll just be hanging out in the waiting room.
All right, buddy. All right. Good to see
you.
Dude.
Thanks. All right, good to see you, man.
See you. All right, Marek, how are you, sir?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Good, man.
Good,
Where
buddy.
in the world are you today?
Sorry?
Where in the world are you today?
Oh, I'm in the Bay Area.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Yeah. Excellent. All right, first question Joe and I need to have answered is, how do you pronounce it? Celo?
That is Celo.
Correct.
Celo. Okay.
Excellent.
Celo means purpose in Esperanto. But for pronunciation, I tell people to just imagine that they're using the short form of Marcelo.
Very nice. That's a good way to remember it. I like that. All right. So I had heard of Celo before. I've taken a look again, kind of to update myself. You guys have been building this for quite a while. You have some impressive projects built into it. You have a very positive a positive approach to how you're approaching building and growing, to give back, and as well to have a kind of purpose behind what you're doing. But if you could real quickly tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us about Celo, why it's here, why it exists, and what you think its role is, and what it brings to the table in terms of users and developers, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, in terms of my background, I have a computer science background, originally from Poland, but grew up in Singapore. Studied first at the University of Toronto, and then went to MIT for my PhD. And it was at MIT that I met Rene, one of my co-founders for Celo. But before we started Celo, we started a machine learning company out of MIT in 2011. That did well. It got acquired. And so then a few years later, we got back together and started thinking about what we wanted to do next. And we teamed up with Sep Kamvar, who was an MIT professor that we got to know along the way from that first company. Sep had just left MIT, and he's also a very successful entrepreneur. He started a company back in 2001, I think, that was doing personalized search that Google then acquired, and that became initially iGoogle, and eventually kind of the foundation of all of Google's kind of personalization technology. And so the three of us, around 2017, were thinking about what we wanted to do next, and we wanted to do something really big, something mission-driven, something that we could really sink our teeth into for the rest of our lives. The more we looked at the opportunity that crypto was presenting to really completely and utterly change the way that everyone does finance, the more we realized that this was the thing that we wanted to focus on. And so we initially started trying to build a really easy to use wallet. Think of it as a kind of a global Venmo-like wallet on top of Ethereum. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't get something that was easy enough to use for the masses. And so that took us down the path of creating Celo, which is an EVM compatible chain. You can think of it as being within the Ethereum ecosystem, but it has a few extra features relative to Ethereum that make it particularly good for building really easy to use mobile experiences for DeFi and for Web3 in general. And so those features are, first and foremost, we have a really great proof of stake consensus protocol that's been live for close to 3 years now. It has one block finality, really short block times, nice. No rollbacks ever. And so from a UX perspective, it's just really, really nice when you're transacting as a consumer to know that you never have to worry about your transaction being rolled back.
Yes.
So that's number one. Number two, there's a lot of talk about account abstraction these days. And this was something, that we've been thinking about for a long time. And one of the most important things that we found early on is that paying for gas with a volatile asset is just way too intimidating for most users.
Right.
And so we have natively support for paying for gas with tokens on Celo. And so that means that if you send a stable coin or you transact with a stable coin, say that you're putting a stable coin into a DEX pool, or you're just sending it to someone, you never have to worry about having a volatile asset like Celo and soon WETH to pay for the transaction fee. You can just use the stable coin. I don't know if you've ever been stuck with USDC on an account where you just don't have gas currency to move it forward.
Sure.
Exactly the behavior that we're trying to avoid. And then the final thing that I think is really, really neat. I think there's been a lot of talk about the importance of light clients. And I think it's mostly talk for many folks, but we've put our heads down and spent years of research and invested years of development to create a ZK snark-based light client. So nice. You can actually sync with the chain with just a few kilobytes of data by downloading one of these snark proofs and then verifying it.
That's awesome. in terms of kind of the mobile first nature of this thing, which is one of the first things you guys emphasize on the website, is this in the form of kind of the tools and capabilities that you're giving to developers to help them focus on it, or is it more of a philosophical approach to, hey, we want to make sure that every project that comes on board here is developing mobile?
It's both.
Okay.
So certainly, if anybody is listening and wants to build mobile experiences, and absolutely, we're always looking to connect with folks like that and to bring them to the platform and to have them build really great user experiences for mobile devices. But we also have work that we've done to make you be able to do really nice things. And so one of those things was the Light client that I mentioned. Another thing that we have is this thing called Social Connect, which is it's an evolution of our original decentralized phone verification protocol. You can think of it as an interoperable registry that maps in a privacy preserving way, maps encrypted phone numbers with wallet addresses. And this allows folks to effectively find each other and send value to, instead of public key derived addresses, you can send value to phone numbers instead. And
Nice.
This works across wallets. So not just for one wallet, but it's a standard that works across multiple wallets. And that's really neat. A lot of people talk about, the Facebook social graph as being one of the biggest, social graphs, and the importance of trying to kind of tap into that. But in my mind, the biggest social graph in the world is the amalgamation of everyone's contact lists in everyone's pocket and everyone's phone, which, not only is bigger, it's also a decentralized social graph, which is pretty cool. And so we work really hard to let folks build products that tap into that social graph.
That's awesome. No, that to me makes a ton of sense. In terms of, you talked about, I think in here you talk about that are you guys providing pre-built kind of code blocks that help? Is that what you mean by that you're providing tools to developers to actually speed development, making use of protocol components that you guys provide?
Yeah, so Social Connect, you can think of it as a library, and we have lots of information, example code for how to use it. But we also have something called Celo Composer, which is a nice tool that lets you get up and running. It's a command line tool that asks you what frameworks you want to use, what languages you want to use, and it spits out a starter project for you to get going.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's been really well received.
Great. In terms of the market we're in right now, look, it's a highly competitive space for chains, layer ones and layer twos. What's it been like, you all kind of to grind it out? You've been at this, I guess, about 3 years now, and you've got big protocols and projects in the system, but it's, like I said, it's a highly competitive space. What's it been like for you all in terms of growing the user base? And are you really longer term focused more on what you can do to onboard new consumers into the space based on your focus on ease of use and account abstraction and the social connect functionality?
Yeah, I think certainly people building on Celo probably have a bigger focus on crypto newbie type folks and bringing them into the ecosystem.
Right.
And again, it makes sense given the ease of use and everything. There are a lot of blue chip Ethereum DeFi protocols that are also on Celo. So
right.
Uniswap V3 launched last year. Before BNB Chain, I think we were back then one of the only layer ones other than Ethereum that they supported. Curve launched last year as well, and have some pretty compelling incentives going on right now for some of the pools on Celo.
Nice.
There's been just Sushi Swap, Pool Together, a whole bunch of well-known Ethereum protocols coming, and that's certainly been good for the ecosystem and for TVL on Celo. I think we have more TVL on Celo than folks like Tezos and Near and Aptos and Algorand. So I think in that regard, we're doing quite well. Active addresses have also been growing over the last little bit. Fun fact, last month we broke our all-time high in terms of monthly active addresses. So, we're seeing more usage of the platform now than we were even at the peak of the last bull market. So yeah, it's obviously a lot of work to kind of help nurture one of these types of ecosystems, but things are going really well.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that it would be difficult to kind of straddle that. Hey, we really want to focus on onboarding new people, but at the same time, the chain has to function with the folks that already exist in DeFi in order to have the financial incentives to get people in and to get projects in. So I'm sure that's not an easy thing to do, but it sounds like you guys are having some pretty good success in bridging that gap. So that's great.
Hey, Marek, tell us about the Google deal that you announced today.
Yes. So the Celo Foundation and Google Cloud have just entered a new kind of partnership that is designed to offer new founders starting projects on Celo access to Google Cloud credits. Google also generously offered time to help mentor folks as well.
Wow, nice.
So yeah, it's just the beginning of us working together with them, and we're really excited. The company that where all of the public goods development happens in the Celo ecosystem, C Labs. They've been long time Google Cloud kind of users, and I think we've definitely had a really great experience building with Google Cloud, and so we're just excited to be able to help people building on top of Celo also have access to those great tools and infrastructure, and to do it in a way that's also free to get started. So really stoked about that. Yeah, they've been really wonderful to collaborate with so far.
That's
Excellent.
great. Yeah, that's excellent. One of the things I talked about earlier that I really liked is that you all are really doing a lot of push on social impact. So there are a number of projects in the space that are focused on financial inclusion, that are focused on donating and giving money to other places in the world that need it. How has that approach worked for you all? How are you recruiting and getting people to build from that perspective instead of, it's quite the mix, right? A lot of developers in this space would love to give back and have their projects maybe give a percentage of revenue to some project, but actually bringing in teams that will actually build for that social impact, that's got to be a really interesting proposition. How are you guys approaching that? How are you recruiting for that? And how's that working out for you?
Yeah, I would say, especially UBIs and social dividends, this has been something on our minds ever since we started even writing the white paper back in 2017.
Nice.
If you go to the original white paper, there's a whole section about social dividend. We're just really excited about the ability of having programmable money be used in new and innovative ways, and we thought UBI could certainly be one of them. And so we've been really, I would say, maybe fortunate that this really resonated with builders in the ecosystem who are hearing about us at first, and many of them just came to us. So Impact Market is a great example of this. They've been around from quite an early time on the platform. They fundraised over $3 million, and they've dispersed that to I think 60,000 or so beneficiaries. giving out on the order of 50 cents a day to folks. It's really, I would say, a pretty impressive case study for Web3, because if you're familiar with the kind of direct giving kind of industry, Give Directly is a leader in the space, I would say, using traditional financial rails. And for a while, they were deemed to be one of the most low overhead ways of donating. But then, when you add crypto rails to the mix, suddenly, Impact Market is an order of magnitude more efficient than even Give Directly, and so their overheads are an order of magnitude lower. And so if you're excited about crypto, if you're listening and you're excited about crypto and you're excited about giving, I would definitely check out Impact Market, because I think they've done a really wonderful job. They have beneficiaries in favela communities in Brazil, all throughout West Africa. They even went into Afghanistan after the US pulled out, and have even done stuff in the Ukraine since the war started. So really, really great project. And then another one that maybe folks have heard of is Good Dollar. So Good Dollar started actually on a different chain, but in the last 2 months they've migrated entirely to Celo, because the mission really resonates with them. They're seeing folks like Impact Market succeeding on Celo, and so I think there's this kind of Schelling point happening where it just makes sense for these kinds of projects to all be on the same place. And so definitely check out Good Dollar as well. It's a really wonderful project as well.
I noticed the Kickstarter logo here. What kind of relationship do you have with Kickstarter? This is interesting to me.
Yeah, so about a year and a bit ago, Kickstarter announced that they are planning to decentralize their product.
Oh, I had no idea.
And committed to doing so on Celo. So
Nice.
We're absolutely thrilled about the work that's going on there. They are a bigger company, and so these things take longer.
Sure.
But I think they're going to be sharing something at the next Celo community call, which we call the Celo Block Party. So that will be a great place to get an update directly from the horse's mouth. But yeah, we're absolutely thrilled. I mean, I think Kickstarter has played, such a fundamental role, I would say, in society over the last 15 years or so that they've been around. And to see them now, get excited about crypto and to come up with new and interesting ways for folks to be able to, back new and exciting projects. I'm just absolutely thrilled.
That's awesome. And from a development perspective, is this all Solidity based for writing contracts for the platform?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So Celo is fully EVM compatible down to the last Ethereum hard fork. We kind of commit to following Ethereum, and we're doing work to actually make that Celo Composer, the thing I mentioned before. It's a really great tool for getting started.
Nice.
And then we're one thing that I kind of alluded to earlier that I'm really excited about, since we can pay for gas with tokens on Celo.
Right.
We're working to add support for WETH as a gas currency as well.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So folks will be able to bridge ETH over to Celo, and then be able to just transact, as they would normally without having to even buy Celo or one of those stablecoin assets. There's 3 stablecoins that you can also use for gas: one pegged to the US dollar, one to the euro, and one to the Brazilian real.
Very nice. In terms of bridges, I saw Layer 0 in the mix here. Are there a number of ways to kind of get on, or people coming on from centralized exchanges? What's that experience like to kind of onboarding if you're already in the crypto world?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so all the major bridges support Celo. You mentioned Layer 0, but also Wormhole, also multi-chain, Axelar, Allbridge, Hyperlane, pretty much, and I'm probably forgetting a few, pretty much all the major bridges support Celo.
Nice.
And then, of course, the Celo asset is in all the major exchanges, on Coinbase, on Binance. On Coinbase, the Coinbase listed the asset with kind of an out-of-date ticker, so it's actually CGLD on Coinbase, but it's the same exact asset.
Okay.
Celo launched with full on-chain governance, and one of the first governance proposals was to rename the ticker to Celo. It's pretty cool, right? Like having a decentralized ecosystem, having anybody propose these kinds of changes, and I think ultimately the community agreed that it made sense, and but yeah, it's been difficult for Coinbase to update that.
Have you how have you guys structured the governance, if it's on chain, or is it holding, is it validators that are able to vote on proposals? Kind of how does that work for you all, and what's it been like building and growing while also community governing?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, Celo is a proof of stake network, so folks can lock their Celo, to use the vernacular that we use in the ecosystem. So you can lock your Celo, and once you've locked that, you can vote you can help secure the network by kind of voting or delegating to validators that you trust, that you think will do a good job of securing the network, and you can also participate in on-chain governance votes. And then when you're ready to unlock, we have a 3-day unbonding period for regular users, and then for validators, it's a little longer because we want a really long objectivity window. But yeah, it's pretty easy. You can participate, just by locking your Celo. There's a bunch of dApps that enable that. But we're also, or the ecosystem also launched liquid staked Celo recently, ST Celo. And they're about to update it to allow you to also participate in governance, and also pick exactly which validators you want to secure the network. And so for many people, liquid stake Celo will be an easier way to participate in the staking ecosystem, in the Celo ecosystem.
Cool. I'm sure you don't want to show favorites, but if you were going to point people, crypto native folks, to 2 or 3 different apps within the ecosystem to get started and figuring out Celo and what they think about it, where would you point them, if you don't mind? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. It's okay.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I mean, I'm biased because I'm also involved with a wallet called Valora.
Oh, nice.
The native wallet on Celo that highlights and uses all of those really cool features that I mentioned at the beginning.
Nice.
I think I mentioned that we started off by trying to build a really easy wallet on Ethereum. So we ended up building that on Celo, and then we spun it out to be its own company. And so it's called Valora. You can find it at valora.xyz. I'm just going to put the URL here.
Cool.
And oh, it looks like I maybe can't. Yeah, and the reason I recommend it is because it has a dApps browser. So it's Valora at the end. Yeah.
Oh, A at the end?
Looks like Google corrected it. Yeah. And the reason I recommend it is because there's a dApps browser
Nice.
to the wallet, which you can use to discover a whole bunch of interesting dApps in the ecosystem. I already mentioned all the DEXs like Uniswap and Curve and Sushi and Uniswap. There's some really great saving protocols as well that you can access either through Valora or MetaMask or any wallet that you like. Most folks probably have heard of Pull Together, maybe. Another interesting one is Halo, which has a cool gamification element for saving. They were previously called Good Ghosting. And for lending, we have Mula and Chi, but there is currently a governance proposal. I guess speaking of governance proposals, there's a governance proposal right now that will bring Chainlink to Celo. It looks like it's going to pass tomorrow.
Wow.
And so that will open the door for
Even more.
like Aave and stuff to come
Yeah.
below. And then, I think for the hardcore degen audiences, there's a really cool new protocol that was incubated in the Celo ecosystem called Numoen, Numoen.
MUM.
And
OEN.
yeah, they're doing some great stuff with leverage. So anybody who's interested, let me find their URL.
Okay.
Anybody who's interested in
Numoen.com.
with leverage, might find them interesting. And saying my keyboard stopped working, so I won't be able to find it. But they're cool. And then there's another interesting offering that also allows leverage called Immortal X.
Immortal X. I like the name.
Yeah, they're currently in testnet, but they have a paper trading competition that's going on right now.
Nice.
So both of those are really good for more hardcore traders and degens in the audience. And you can find them all by going to docs.celo.org.
Okay.
And then there's an ecosystem tab that lets you kind of find all the different projects.
Oh, I was spelling it backward. I was spelling with an M at the front. I misunderstood what you were saying. Oh yeah. So here's a good place to kind of get in and see everything. Oh, that's great.
Totally. Yeah. No, this is a great resource for everyone.
That's awesome.
So
real quickly, I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you, do you feel like with Valora, you're getting closer to what your original goal was from your original wallet product that moved you into building a chain?
Yes. Yeah. So I think, one of the goals that we had early on was to make it really easy for anybody to, send value to any phone number in the world, inspired by WhatsApp. We wanted to do to money what WhatsApp did to messages.
Right.
And in one regard, you can say that we've succeeded in that once you've created a Valora wallet, you can send value to any phone number. But I think the challenge is still on and off ramping, right? That value is only useful if you can on and off ramp anywhere in the world. And so that's what we're working on right now. And we have this, and naturally we've been adding on and off ramps market by market. I think we've integrated like 12 or something. Probably more than that by now. And engineers started getting tired of having to do these bespoke custom integrations.
Right.
And when you think about it, in order to make it really easy for people to on and off ramp in every country in the world, especially with native experiences that look and feel just like attaching an account to your Venmo wallet,
right?
That's going to require potentially hundreds of companies that all have money transmission licenses in their respective markets, that all have local banking relationships so they can keep fees really low. It's going to require potentially hundreds of those companies popping up and then integrating with wallets. And luckily that's great because crypto, is all about getting lots of companies working together and kind of rowing in the same direction. So I think crypto is a really great way to realize that. But it can't happen with just bespoke custom integrations between wallets and on-off ramps. So we need something that kind of did what Wallet Connect did, where it unified the interface between wallets and dApps. And so one thing that we've done recently is launch Fiat Connect.
I knew this was coming as soon as you went down this path. This is awesome.
Yeah, it's
Wait,
really,
so
really nice.
you've launched a company to fix the banks, fix access to the banks so that we can get people to crypto so they don't need the banks. I love that. That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
so it's not a company. It's a fully open
Project.
source project. It's
Oh,
just it's
nice.
an API standard .org
Okay.
that basically makes it really easy for wallets to connect with on and off ramps, and for wallets critically to control the UX, and then just have the on and off ramps kind of provide the conversion from crypto to fiat in the back end.
That's brilliant.
And with a standard, what's really cool is suddenly you can, as a wallet, once you've onboarded, one on and off ramp provider, if a new one pops up and has also implemented the standard, then you just need to change a configuration, like a line in a configuration file, to add a new on and off ramp. And so that's the vision behind Fiat Connect.
That's brilliant. What's
That
even
is
more
cool.
brilliant is that you've open sourced it and made it available to anybody that wants to access it. That's fantastic, man. That's brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, no, we're big believers in open source and having this be a public good for the whole Web3 ecosystem to benefit from. And it's been going well. To launch something that becomes a standard is not easy. And this page is already quite out of date. This is from last year, so that list of logos on the bottom has grown significantly.
Nice.
But to try to help create this Schelling point, the Celo Foundation, I should say, launched a big incentive program, $20 million of incentives going towards on and off ramp companies that have implemented Fiat Connect and launched it. And so that's really accelerated the adoption of it. And now there's, as of just a few weeks ago, the first markets went live. I think there's 6 markets now: Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, India, and the Philippines that are now live. And there's something like 50 more markets that are about to turn on. And so it's pretty exciting because, the experience in the wallet is, again, looks and feels like Venmo.
That's beautiful.
And it's fully native, fully integrated. But, the end result is that people can kind of cash in and out really easily. We had some user quotes that were pretty fun from people using it. We had someone in Nigeria who said that, we had all the usual quotes where people were really excited that they could, they didn't have to use P2P exchanges, that the money, it even worked with mobile money, could go into their mobile money account.
Nice.
But one user said, "This is very, very okay."
I love it.
And I think he's right. Like on and off ramping doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be anything more than that.
Yeah.
It should just work. It should be very basic.
That's awesome.
And ultimately, the way we should all think about it is just being okay.
That's fantastic. Embrace the tagline. That's awesome. That is great. I love that. Wow, you guys got a lot going on, Marek. This is fantastic. I really appreciate the introduction to Celo because I frankly was not educated. So I want to take a deeper dive now. I love the ethos of what you're doing. I love your approach to the market, to social impact, and to how you're approaching developers and how they develop for the ecosystem. I think it's amazing. And Fiat Connect is just an incredible bonus on top of all that. So thank you for releasing that to the world as well. But I love what you're doing. Is there anything else we should know about Celo before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I mean, definitely follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is Celo.org. So at Celo and then .org.
Okay.
You can find us in Discord at chat.celo.org. And then if you're, again, like a DJ and looking for interesting opportunities, I think Celo Tracker
Celo Tracker
has a list of all the different pools and opportunities.
Nice.
And so
excellent.
that would be
I'll put all of these links in the show note. That's when a majority of the folks that pay attention to the show do it in the podcast in the audio format. So I'll make sure we put those links in the show notes as well.
Perfect. Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah, they have, I think it's the DeFi tab will kind of list
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's good.
different pools, or maybe it's there's one tab here that will show you. Yeah. Here
Oh, there you are.
if you sort it by APR, it'll kind of give you what folks might be interested in. So,
Wow, we have plenty of DGens. Well, look at that. That's great. Okay. Yeah, those are some nice returns. Beautiful. Well, Marek, thank you so much for your time today, man. I really appreciate it. I'd love to, when you guys have more news coming out, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to have you back on. Charlie, thank you for setting this up. You've been a great help as a friend of the show, and we really appreciate you, all the great work you've done for us. So thanks very much, Marek, and celo.org, celo.org, and I will put all of this in the show notes. So every link that we've discussed will be there for everybody that wants to grab it. But thanks so much, Marek.
absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, Marek. Appreciate it, buddy.
Bye-bye. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I know. When I met him at Denver through Charlie, I was I think it was Charlie, and I think it was Charlie, the one who definitely put us physically together, but probably the team is probably behind it as well at Waxman. I was like, this guy is super impressive, and the fact that had been around for a while, I was like, oh, okay. And then you look at the track record, and you're like, it's like 3 MIT dudes or 3 MIT PhDs basically, that have a couple of exits, and are now onto this. So. It seems to have a nice balance between mission and, say, technological capability that I like. It's not just, sometimes on mission focused projects, it becomes more about fluff and brochure and goals and aspirations versus product. And that's what I kind of really liked about this when I started digging in, was all the product that's already there. Within the mission. So it's actually, and that social connect product of, the mobile first perspective, again, we know how important that is globally. And then the easy ability to send crypto to someone in your contact list on your phone. Versus not needing to know anything. I mean, that to me is super impressive too. So
absolutely.
So, if you want guys that are smart, if you're developer focused or you like projects with top tier hardcore developers with expertise and track records, this is definitely one to pay attention to from my perspective. And you guys know I talk about execution risk a lot.
Yep.
So these guys have a nice balance between products that work and add value to massive decentralized communities. On top of a cool mission. So
Absolutely. No, fantastic. I'm really glad you and Charlie worked to get him on. I think he's great. Are you wearing a Celo shirt?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm wearing some Celo swag that he gave me at the show.
I didn't get any Celo swag at the show.
Yeah, that's because I told you, it's like, it was, we took us a while to find you after that happy hour when we found you in that ditch, in the alley between the two buildings. Luckily, still clothed, Mrs. Nickel. But the point is that that's when all the swag came out. So once we got you up after lunch, you kind of missed out. But no, I think you were at that swanky
I was at that
French lunch with Yev. So
that was actually that was actually good. So that's great, man. Let's wrap it up. You good?
Good to go, man. Awesome.
Right.
So tomorrow we don't have Sean, right?
Shizzy says, Brad, you're always talking about what we need. Bankless on and off ramps, and Fiat Connect is just building. Great to know. Crazy that Kickstarter is decentralizing. Yeah, I had no friggin' clue, man. And here's what's really interesting. It's like this protocol is just like kind of understated and quiet, right? I mean, we've heard of them in the periphery, but not really. Backed by A16Z, every major protocol I can think of is somehow involved with them. Kickstarter is decentralizing on their platform. All this social impact work they're doing. It's just amazing to me sometimes to think about the man hours, the money, the time, the investment, the communities that are being built all over this space that are like this, and they're just like churning away. And it's like, what the hell? I can't even keep up with it all. But yeah, man, definitely Shizzy. It's really great to know that Fiat Connect is brilliant. And the fact that they open source that and didn't start a separate company to serve it up is amazing. Like, because, you know, here in the US, to connect to a developer to connect bank accounts, you just load Plaid into your code in like 10 seconds and bam, any bank in the country can be connected into an application, right? And Plaid now does crypto and all kinds of stuff. But to do that for every country in the world, or start to doing it for as many countries as they can in the world, is really fantastic. That's great. That's a great ecosystem benefit.
It kind of comes to like bring it full circle to the way we started the show real quickly, and you know how, you know, our general sentiments as to what's happening in the space, despite all the loud noise. And then you run into a project like this and you realize, oh, okay, mobile first. Okay, rest of the world seems first to me in a lot of ways. You see all these protocols for sending crypto around through mobile phones that, you know, make it easy for everyone and seamless. We just bypass all the hard infrastructure stuff. I mean, again, what does this show us? This shows us massive international uptake. On crypto technology. So it's already here. There's a lot of noise about, you know, the markets these days, but when you see something like this and you think about, wow, okay, so here comes 3 billion users that probably aren't in the system yet.
Exactly.
And, you know, you want to talk about banking unbanked and getting access to, you know, different protocols and bypassing oligarchic structures in home countries. I mean, these are the type of plays that get me excited. Just for all of those reasons. And then you throw massive tech brain power behind it with a, you know, kind of a social mission, but not like all the social mission, you know, it's like it has the regular components in there too, just with a common goods framework, a lot like your buddies at Canto in some ways.
Absolutely.
Which I think is the sort of the social themes that we all think makes sense. Or not all of us, but a lot of us think makes sense. So, you know, I like it. So I'm glad. I just wish I'd had my hat to wear. I had the Celo beanie too, but my daughter commandeered that one.
You got all the shit. You got all the shit. Except I've got a stack of freaking merch sitting upstairs. Nobody's touched it. So. Yeah,
no, I mean, there's certain stuff that I really like, and then other stuff that, you know, it's too hot to wear around here. Like, we're not really running around in beanies.
Well, the kids are. That's why your daughter took it.
Yeah, she snatched that one, and she snatched the B&B chain one. But, you know, to me, I think this is what, you know, the genie's, the cork's out of the bottle, man. This stuff is happening no matter what happens. And, you know, and then we see this product, the Fiat Connect, which I believe is, you know, on ramps anywhere. You know, on-ramp, off-ramps everywhere. And I looked at what they're doing in different countries, offering payments and incentives for people to integrate it into apps in countries. So, I mean, what if it just turns out where one day you could just on-ramp and off-ramp seamlessly from anywhere, and it goes right into your bank accounts, and maybe you could just set it up right away, you know, or it's just seamless. We're not going to see it. It's just going to, you know, it's like plugging into the wall. So I find all of this really refreshing and rejuvenating.
So do
I guess
man.
is what I'm getting at. So
Absolutely.
Anyhow, I know you got a lot to do. We kind of ran over, so I will.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Hope if you do, please take a moment to like, subscribe, review us on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Make sure you smash that thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, so that we get a boost in the algorithm. If you haven't yet, don't forget to join the best community in DeFi, and that is t.me/mission DeFi, t.me//mission DeFi. Appreciate y'all being here. Shizzy, Chuck, Niblets, thanks so much for participating in the conversation today. Joe, I hope you have a great afternoon.
You too, buddy. And we'll, again, tomorrow we don't have Sean, right?
We do not have Sean.
All right, so we could just shoot bullshit. All right, good.
I thought we'd do some degenerate shit tomorrow. Maybe look up some APIs and check out some projects, that kind of shit.
Yeah, I saw some good ones over on Camelot this morning when I was just trolling through there. Let's look at Celo and see what we can find there.
Yeah,
maybe bring up some new stuff. All right, cool. All right, you have a great afternoon, buddy.
All right,
see you tomorrow.